The sunset creeps slowly behind the hills, dragging long shadows that weigh heavily on the dusty road, stretching toward the ancient palace. The sky is covered with heavy gray clouds, as if foretelling something ominous, something not resembling rain. Inside the old car, Lena sits next to her husband Mark, holding their daughter Mia, who has fallen asleep after a long day of travel. In the back seat, Sam, the teenage son, stares at his phone screen in boredom, indifferent to everything around him. Meanwhile, Mark drives, his eyes fixed on the road but his mind preoccupied with the palace he recently inherited from an uncle he barely knew. Lena, gazing out the window, asks, "Are we close?" "I feel like this forest never ends," Mark responds, trying to mask his anxiety. "The map says we'll arrive after the next turn." No sooner had he spoken than a narrow stone path suddenly opened before them, flanked by towering cypress trees, standing like soldiers, guarding what lay beyond. At the end of the road stood the palace, massive, abandoned, and imposing, as though it had been ripped from an old painting by a mad artist. The car came to a stop in front of the iron gates, which slowly swung open automatically without anyone touching them. Mark and Lena exchanged worried glances while Sam sarcastically remarked, "This is how horror movies start. We enter the palace, and the doors lock behind us." She laughed nervously, trying to lighten the mood. "Enough imagination. It's just an old house. It'll be our home now." They all stepped inside and began exploring the place. The walls were covered in torn, outdated wallpaper. Chandeliers hung precariously as if about to fall, and the air inside felt heavier than outside, as though it carried the breaths of those who had lived here centuries ago. At that moment, they heard the main door slam shut behind them, followed by the metallic echo of a lock turning on its own. Mark rushed to the door and tried to open it in vain. Lena followed, clutching their terrified child, while Sam stood frozen. "It won't open," Mark said, pounding on the door with both hands. "Try the windows," Lena shouted. Sam ran to one of the windows, but it was sealed tight, as if it had never been meant to open. Then, amidst the silence, they heard a sound, a deep, resonant voice coming from everywhere and nowhere, as though the palace itself was speaking. "Welcome to the game of death." Everyone shuddered, and Lena gripped Mark's hand tightly. "You are now inside the game, and leaving will not be easy. The game only ends when you uncover all the secrets and pay every price." Mark asked, his voice trembling. "What game? Who are you?" No one answered. Only the palace's voice reverberated through the walls. "In each stage, you must sacrifice something and reveal something. No one leaves until you discover the truth hidden within your hearts from one another." Then the lights went out. Mia screamed and cried loudly. Sam ran to her and held her in his arms. After a few moments, the lights returned, but something had changed. The walls were now covered in strange drawings, as if etched by deranged hands. Near the entrance, they found a large clock, similar to those in old train stations. Its hands did not indicate time, but pointed to a single word: Stage 1. "What's happening?" Lena whispered through tears. Sam approached the clock to find a small mirror beneath it, engraved with words: "To begin, you must reveal the first lie." He stepped back, staring at his parents. "What lies?" he asked in a low voice. Mark and Lena exchanged charged glances, something buried deep within them for years stirring uncomfortably. Before anyone could respond, the floor beneath them suddenly gave way, swallowing them into darkness. They didn't yet realize that every step forward would cost them a piece of their souls. Mark awoke on a cold, hard surface, struggling to breathe as the air around him felt heavier than usual. Opening his eyes, he found himself in a circular room with no windows, dimly lit by flickering antique lamps hanging from the ceiling. Shouting hoarsely, he called out, "Lena! Mia! Sam! Are you here?" A faint, broken voice replied, "I'm here." Lena sat on the floor, cradling their daughter, while Sam huddled in a corner, his face pale and eyes fixed on something on the wall. Mark quickly got up and moved toward them. As he approached, he heard Mia whisper fearfully, "Daddy, the palace is talking. The palace is watching us." A chill ran down Mark's spine as he turned to Sam and asked anxiously, "What's wrong? Why are you looking like that?" Without a word, Sam pointed to the wall. They all looked where he indicated and saw a single word written in dark blood. Confession. Directly below it, a small window appeared in the wall, containing 3 black cards. Mark picked one up and read aloud, his voice quivering. To begin stage 1, one of you must confess a secret hidden from the family. A revealed secret will breed hatred. Silence fell over the group. Their gazes wandered aimlessly, hearts pounding violently. This is madness, Noha exclaimed. Maybe it's a trick, a stage performance. Mia whimpered. Mommy, I'm scared. The strange clock from the previous hall reappeared, now mounted on the wall in front of them, ticking loudly and irritatingly. A number appeared on its glass dial. 4:15. The countdown began. 359. 358. Sam shouted, we have limited time to confess. If we don't. He trailed off as a sharp whistle pierced the air, and part of the ceiling collapsed, warning them. Mia spoke softly, staring at the ground. I'll confess. Everyone fell silent, their eyes locked on him. Taking a deep breath, he continued. Before moving here, I knew the truth about this place. Lena stared at him in shock. What truth? She demanded. From the lawyer who gave me the keys, I learned that this palace belonged to my uncle, and that everyone who lived here after him disappeared. He paused, guilt weighing heavily. I ignored it, thinking it was just superstition. I wanted a fresh start, a home for us that wouldn't cost anything, so I took the risk. Lena broke down in tears, and Sam rose angrily. You knew we might be in danger and brought us here against our will? Have you lost your mind? Mark remained silent, unable to defend himself. He knew what he'd done was unforgivable. Suddenly, the lights went out again. The sound of metal creaking echoed through the room, followed by a dim red light glowing above the closed iron door. An inscription appeared. Accepted. The gateway to the next stage is open. The door creaked open slowly, accompanied by a deep, ominous, metallic groan. Before they could cross, the palace's voice boomed once more. In every stage, confession, sacrifice, and blood. Sam clutched his sister's hand tightly as they braced themselves for whatever came next. Blood trickled from Sam's hand as he held his trembling sister's. How many stages are there? She asked, but no one answered. They stepped through the gateway, each carrying something yet to be revealed, for the game had truly begun and would not end until their ruin or death. They passed through the iron gate into a long corridor arched with stone, engraved with an inscription in a strange language. Beneath it, its translation appeared, as if the palace wanted them to understand. Progress comes only at a price. The passage was dark, lit only by torches on the walls that ignited on their own as they approached. Like the palace itself was breathing with them, watching their steps and syncing its rhythm to their racing hearts. At the end of the corridor, they reached a large room centered by a stone platform holding an ancient scale. On the right side of the room stood a massive metal door without handles or locks, just a solid steel slab. Above the scale hung a brass plaque inscribed with words, "It is time for sacrifice." Lena's voice trembled. Sacrifice? What does this place want from us? The palace's stern voice echoed from all directions, brooking no argument. To open the door, one of you must place something dear to your heart on the scale. Something cut from your very being, your essence, your memory. Truth alone is not enough. Mark approached the scale and stared at it. The balance remained still, waiting, as though the iron itself reveled in anticipation. Lena asked, tears gathering in her eyes, "What do you mean by something from oneself? Does it want one of us to harm ourselves?" Suddenly, a faint hum filled the air, and a small wooden box appeared in the corner of the room. It opened automatically, revealing a small silver dagger that glowed faintly. Sam rushed toward the box, grabbed the dagger, then stepped back, looking at his parents. "No one will do this. We won't let you." "I'll do it," Sam said firmly. "No!" Lena screamed. Sam gave a sad smile. "I'm not as young as you think." He extended his right arm, placed the blade against his forearm, and sliced off a small piece of skin. As Lena gasped and cradled her sobbing daughter, who didn't understand what was happening, the blood dripped onto the scale. With the first drop, the scales pan moved slowly, as if awakening from slumber. Then the metal door began to emit a muffled sound, and the ground beneath them shook until it creaked open, painfully slow. Mark approached his son, his voice choked with emotion. "You shouldn't have done that, my boy. I should have shown you that I'm not the child you always ignore." Everyone fell silent. These weren't mere words, they were bitter truths. They entered through the door, but the next room was darker, colder, more suffocating. Its floor was wet, its walls covered in cracked mirrors, and in the center stood a round table with 5 chairs, each bearing one of their names, even little Mia's. Lena whispered shakily, "Do we need to sit down?" The palace responded mockingly, "If you don't sit, the spirits will force you themselves." In the next moment, long black hands emerged from the walls, seizing their bodies and forcing them onto the chairs. Once seated, a misty crystal ball appeared in the middle of the table, spinning slowly before glowing white and projecting a scene inside it, a memory from the past. It showed Mark speaking anxiously on the phone. "Listen carefully. I can't tell them the palace is cursed. Let them come. Once we start living here, I'll try to figure out what's going on. Don't worry. No one will know you were ever here." "Who were you talking to?" Lena shouted, but Sami didn't reply. He simply stared at the ground as if swallowing his words. The crystal ball stopped spinning, and the words appeared. "The next stage begins with uncovering the second secret." Sam screamed, no! No more secrets. We'll die if this continues." But the palace's voice returned. "You'll die if you stop." Suddenly, the lights went out again. This time, the darkness took something with it. When the light returned, Lena was screaming, "Mia, where's my daughter?" But the 5th chair was empty. Her cries filled the room as she frantically searched every corner, hoping to find Mia hiding behind one of the cracked mirrors or under the round table. "Mia! Mia!" she called desperately. Meanwhile, Sam stood frozen, paralyzed by terror, realizing that the girl hadn't disappeared due to human intervention. This damn palace had swallowed her. Suddenly, a foggy screen appeared on the opposite wall, displaying chilling words that froze their veins. "Mia is hostage in the next stage. If you wish to save her, reveal the next secret and make the greatest sacrifice." Lena approached the screen, screaming, "What secret? Tell me how to get my daughter back." Silence answered her. Then the round table advanced strangely forward, and a small hatch opened in the floor, emitting a dim light and revealing a narrow passageway. Mark tried to sound calmer than he felt. "We have no choice. We must continue." The 3 of them stepped heavily into the passage, their eyes darting in every direction, expecting the walls to collapse on them. The corridor was narrower than the previous ones, its stench suffocating, a mix of mold and rusted iron, and faint whispers filled the void, as if the walls spoke to them in languages they couldn't comprehend. They arrived at a new chamber, different from the others. The floor was covered in fine red sand, and in the center stood a life-size doll wearing a tattered old dress. Its glass eyes stared fixedly into the void. Above the doll hung a wooden sign. "Every lie grants strength to the doll. Every buried secret paves the way for one of your deaths." Sam took 2 steps back, muttering, "This doll isn't natural." Suddenly, the doll moved slowly, grotesquely, turning its head toward them. In a distorted, childlike voice, it spoke, "Whoever reveals the next secret saves the child." A heavy silence fell. None dared speak. Each knew their hearts harbored secrets capable of destroying the rest if exposed. The doll warned, "I give you 2 minutes, or Mia will be lost forever." A countdown appeared above the doll's head. 159, 158 tears streamed down Lena's face as she looked at Mark. Then suddenly she cried out, "I'll do it! I'll tell!" She took 2 trembling steps toward the doll and began to sob uncontrollably. "My secret is, I wasn't honest with you all. When Mark lost his job and we fell into financial crisis, I secretly contacted someone who loved me in the past. He helped me financially in exchange for staying in touch. I never told anyone. I thought I was protecting. I didn't tell anyone. I thought I was protecting my family." Mark gasped, as if his soul were being ripped from his chest. Sam, on the other hand, stepped back in shock, staring at his mother as though she were a stranger. The doll moved again, raising its hands slowly and pointing to the left wall. The floor cracked open, and an iron cage rose from the void, inside of which lay Mia, unconscious but breathing. Lena screamed and ran toward her. "Mia, my darling!" But before she could reach her, an iron wall slammed down between them. Suddenly, words appeared. The cage, the ultimate sacrifice. Only one person may save her. The others must choose who stays and who is erased. The three looked at each other in horror and disbelief. For the first time since entering the palace, they realized that the game wasn't just demanding the revelation of secrets, it was forcing them to abandon one another. They had little time as the countdown above the cage began ticking down. 5 a.m., 4:59, 4:58. Time was slipping away, the seconds dissolving into nothingness. The family stood at a crossroads with no turning back. Who would save Mia? And who would be erased from existence? Whispers filled the chamber, whispers unlike any human voices, as if rising from the depths of the walls. They repeated scattered, terrifying words. Betrayal, lies, judgment is coming. The doll spoke again in its twisted voice. Choose who deserves to continue the journey and who must be erased from the game. Sam shouted, "No one will be erased." "This is madness. We're a family." The doll sneered at him and pointed to the wall, where a new screen appeared, displaying an image of the family together. Then, one by one, the images began to fade until only Mia's picture remained. Behind the bars of the cage, the doll spoke again. "Only one will go to rescue the child. The door behind the cage will open for them. As for the other two, their fate will be decided here." A small glass box appeared on the table in front of them, containing two buttons, one white, one black. The palace's voice echoed, "Each of you chooses secretly. White means sacrificing yourself for the others. Black means choosing to stay. If all three choose black, everyone dies. If two choose black and one chooses white, the one who chose white will be erased. If two choose white, the remaining person is granted a chance." Mark exclaimed, "This is a wicked game. It wants to sow distrust among us." Lena, tears streaming down her cheeks, replied, "But we have no other choice. If we don't decide, Mia will be erased first." The three sat around the table in suffocating silence. Each extended their hand to the box and turned their chosen button without revealing it to the others. It was a moment unlike any they'd ever experienced. Complete stillness, their heartbeats audible in the air. They feared one another, each suspecting the other had chosen survival. Then the result was announced. The glass box lit up faintly red, and text appeared before them. Two chose black, one chose white, the ultimate sacrifice. Sam's eyes widened as he said, "I pressed white." Mark quickly added, "So did I." Lena looked at both of them and fell silent. Sam screamed, "Mom, you chose black." She lowered her head, her voice trembling. "I didn't want to die, not after everything." Behind her, the wall began to move, and a dark fissure opened in the ground. Two long black hands emerged slowly, as if waiting for permission. The palace's voice declared, "Lena Miller has been chosen for erasure." Lena screamed and tried to run, but her hands stuck to the table, immobilizing her. The black hands pulled her slowly toward the fissure. She didn't scream much, didn't resist. She knew she deserved it. Then the fissure closed and the ground returned to normal, leaving no trace. Mark stared at the now empty chair. Sam looked around and cried in a trembling voice, "Is it over?" But the doll gestured toward the cage, which began to open slowly. Mia emerged, stumbling toward her father and brother. When Mark embraced her, a stone door appeared behind the cage, inscribed with the words, "Stage 3, Purification by Blood." Sam, holding his little sister, trembled and said, "I'm scared, Dad. This isn't the end." Mark looked toward the open door, tears in his eyes, and replied, "No, son. This is only the beginning of hell." Mark and Sam, carrying Mia between them, entered the stone door marked Purification by Blood. The new passage was darker than any place they'd seen before. The walls were draped in a veil of dripping red liquid, and the ground was slippery, as if wet with warm fluid. The stench was unbearable, a mix of burnt iron, mold, and decaying bodies. They advanced slowly, hearing only the sound of their breaths and footsteps echoing as if repeated in another world. Eventually, they reached a rectangular hall centered by a black marble altar. A massive knife was embedded in a blood-filled hole atop the altar, and above it hung a new sign. For purification, blood must be spilled willingly. Honest blood, not blood of fear. Choose one of you to purify the other, or all your bodies will be rejected. Mark looked at Sam, who seemed to be fighting for his last breaths out of sheer terror. Sam stammered, "Dad, what does this mean?" "We have to hurt each other." Mark approached the altar, staring at the knife as if it were watching him, waiting to be held. He read the lower part of the sign aloud. "One stab to the heart opens the next stage. Lies and sacrifice return you to the beginning." Mark shouted into the darkness, "But we've revealed the secrets. We've sacrificed. What more do you want from us?" A deep, inhuman voice answered, "We wanted truth, not words. We wanted wounds, not confessions." Mia approached her father, resting her head on his leg, and whispered softly, "Daddy, I don't want to die." Mark knelt on his knees and hugged her tightly. Then he looked at Sam and said, "Listen to me. I'll do it. I'll stab myself. I'll open the way, and we'll get out." Sam screamed, "No! You're crazy. You might die. Let me do it." But Mia didn't listen. He reached for the knife, feeling the cold metal cut his skin with the first touch. He climbed onto the altar and placed the tip of the blade against his chest. But just as he prepared to stab himself, Mia suddenly screamed, not in her voice but in a deep, distorted tone, "None of you deserve purification." Mark looked at her in astonishment. Her face had changed, her eyes now pitch black like endless voids, and a shadow loomed behind her that didn't match her body. Mia stepped back and began to laugh, a chilling laugh unfit for a child. She swayed and said, "All your secrets have eaten my heart. I hate you. I hate all of you." Sam screamed, "Mia, what are you saying?" But the voice emanating from her didn't stop. It repeated, "Mia isn't here. Mia died the day you entered the palace." The hall began to shake. The altar split open, and two black hands emerged holding something, a broken doll's head with one glowing eye. New writing appeared on the wall. "The final sin remains unrevealed, and the hidden player has entered the game." Mark looked at Sam slowly and whispered, "There's someone else here with us." Suddenly, a strange male laugh echoed from behind the walls. Unlike anything human, the voice said, "It's my turn." And then the light vanished, the walls disappeared, and even the corridors became boundless. Mark and Sam stood in the center of a room without walls, as if cast out of the space and pushed into nothingness. Mia floated above the ground, blood streaming from her eyes as if crying for something greater than pain. Mark croaked, "Mia, please, if you can hear me, come back to Daddy." But the voice that came from her mouth was that of a confident, cold killer. "Mia died with your first step. You who entered, you who gave life." Sam trembled and asked, "Who are you?" The voice from the child replied, "I am the hidden player, the forgotten part of your family. I am the one you buried alive without knowing." Mark's blood froze and he looked at Sam in disbelief. He whispered, "It can't be." But shadows began forming around them, and images appeared in the air. Old pictures from their previous home. A woman screamed while giving birth, the cry of the newborn unheard. Then a doctor whispered, "Stillborn, he won't survive." But the next image was different. The woman cried, cradling a lifeless child, while the father whispered, "Let's say he died. We won't keep a deformed corpse. This isn't my son." Darkness fell, and the voice from Mia said, "I am your unnamed son. I am the beginning and the end." Mark screamed, kneeling on the ground. "We were young, scared. We didn't know what to do." The voice replied savagely, "And now I know exactly what to do." A hand extended from the darkness and snatched Sam, who screamed as he was dragged backward into a bottomless black void. Mark ran after him but caught only the echo of the scream. A final inscription appeared in the air before him. Every stage was a trial, and now comes the final judgment. The voice faded, the walls vanished, and only one thing remained: a mirror. Standing before it, Mark saw himself as an old man, covered in wounds, his eyes hollow. Behind him stood the ghosts of his children and wife, silently watching him. Writing appeared on the mirror. "You are the only survivor, but survival belongs to hell." The ground beneath him opened, but it wasn't fire below. It was a new, pristine version of the palace, waiting for another family. The final voice said, "The game never ends. The game merely searches for new players." If you enjoy the content I create, please consider subscribing and supporting my journey. Your subscription helps me continue doing what I love, and your comments mean the world to me. They fuel my motivation and help me improve. Every bit of support, whether big or small, makes a huge difference. So don't forget to hit that subscribe button, leave a comment, and share your thoughts. I'd love to hear from you. Thank you so much for being part of this amazing community.